Manever I say ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there, osia dem yopo.
A ranking member of the NPP, Elvis, has finally come out to encourage and congratulate Mahama for his strategic move to unite all the Africa countries to work in collaboration for development. Without much ado, I would like you to join me listening to what he said into detail. This station still remains PENDREAM TV, the only channel that brings you the best and latest updates in politics. If you are new here, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, turn it to all posts so that you'll be notified of every pin drop that will hit the channel. Thank you. Stay tuned for more.
Do not know, but let me start this conversation.
We're actually discussing the inauguration of the president-elect of Ghana.
Okay.
And its implications.
Okay. Okay. All right. So.
The question I was asking.
Okay. So we'll start with the inauguration of President-elect John Dramani Mahama. He has been traveling around the African continent, inviting some heads of state as well to his inaugural ceremony, which will be taking place on the 7th of January at the Independence Square. But Elvis, what is the implication of this on the likes of Niger, Mali, and then Burkina Faso?
Okay, so thank you once more. Let me extend New Year wishes to friends, loved ones who are watching, and to all the Pan-African family. Happy New Year to all of you. The fundamental issue in focus here, in respect of which we must be interrogating what appears to be implications, for me, should first of all be hinged on the kind of solidarity that have existed historically between the countries of the Alliance for Sahelian States and Ghana, and of course the broader West African sub-region. Now, to have that kind of discussion, you cannot do but also give consideration to the broader topic of, sub-regional integration, which has been the basic effort advanced by the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. Now, if on the basis of this, you realize that regionalism will entail a continuous effort of solidarity, shared vision, and common purpose, economically, socially, culturally, and of course delving into major pillars such as trade and the security complexes that we mutually share, be they positives or negatives, especially at a time where terrorism and what happens to be protest governments or anti-colonial sentiments being inexorably high within the sub-region. It calls for the need to begin to rethink what the broader implications of the carving out of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso will be on the integration or regional efforts of West African nations. Now, the alliance for the West African states, you notice that their movement out of ECOWAS have got a number of critical implications. First of all, on this effort of regional integration, which we must not lose count on. Number one, you realize that their exit was on the basis of the inability of ECOWAS, which, by the way, is one of the toothless bulldogs we have when it comes to regional efforts in terms of integration. ECOWAS, since its institutionalization in 1993 after its own charter, for me, have drifted from its core mandate, have drifted from its focus, and continuously have only offered platform for African leaders to actually go and showcase their ignorance about governance. And so, on the basis of such ignorance, you realize that the common ideals of solidarity, the common ideals of standing as each other's keepers in common defense, common security, common economic aspiration, free movement of goods and persons failed. Why? Because they depend on imperial and colonial forces even for funding. And so clearly ECOWAS became so much of a compromised regional body, to the extent that, in my opinion, rather became more of a facilitator of the very things it should be fighting on behalf of its membership. And so you find Niger, you find Burkina, you find Mali being in a very critical time where they must practically be seen as a new form of colonized nations to France in particular. Deposit their reserves in France, their gold in France, any form of economic advantage, even their natural resources. They have no power, or shall I call it autonomy, to go into a bilateral or multilateral contract about their own resources without recourse to France. Well, who does that? It doesn't happen anywhere. Yet ECOWAS, who should be the masterpiece to run to the defense and support of these countries in their most vulnerable political state, have continuously failed to do so. And so their exit was on the basis of the inability of ECOWAS to fight for them, not even the anti-French sentiments. With the continuous, revolver of the anti-French sentiments, if ECOWAS had stood in good faith with these countries, they would not have exited. And so that exit was just to tell us that ECOWAS is ineffective. And that ineffectiveness have birthed the AES, the Alliance for Sahelian State, which came up after a thorough roundtable discussions of the governments and other stakeholders and even diplomatic persons from these countries along the West African Sahelian border, which is popularly called the Liptako-Guma. And that is why the charter establishing the AES is called the Liptako-Guma Charter. Now, you realize that with that, definitely they will reconfigure their own geopolitical antics, and what it does is to undermine the free movement of goods and persons, which is a major pillar of our integration efforts. So other West African nations, all right, that remains with ECOWAS and are not part of AES, have automatically lost that advantage of the impact of the protocol on free movement of goods and persons between these two blocks. Now, the only way out then is for the AES to begin to charter the path of bilateral relations with individual member states of ECOWAS without recourse to the mother union itself. So that element of solidarity is broken. Trust issues will come in, and so you always expect that diplomacy will thrive on mutual trust and solidarity. That element is broken. The only good thing economically is that, or would have been that, AES, the alliance, have stated emphatically that they will remain with the monetary union of ECOWAS, otherwise called the UMIO. Now, what it means is that at least it grants them a certain absorber to the shocks that could arise as a result of their exit. And so the third thing is the fragile security situation, because we do not only have shared borders, we also have shared mandates to protecting the territorial and security of these borders. So that territorial integrity, okay, in the broader security governance architecture is also undermined by the exit of these countries. And so then you realize that subtly it has actually exacerbated the underlying security vulnerabilities at the time we have a lot of terrorist advancement within the broader West African sub-region and the Sahelian belt, starting from Chad to the northeastern of Nigeria, Yobe, Borno, Adamawa, go into Cameroon, far north and north regions of Cameroon. You go to Niger, they say, you realize that all of us are at risk. And so it calls for a certain agency. What is that agency? It calls for the agency that governments of individual states that holds membership to ECOWAS must begin to charter a certain path that re-establish a bilateral trust, bilateral solidarity, okay, distinct from what the countries of AES will view these countries to be from the lens of ECOWAS. So they move, all right, and this is where the practical, strategic move of President-elect John Dramani Mahama makes a lot of diplomatic sense. That even ahead of his formal administration, he has recognized the need to ensure that the solidarity Ghana shares with these countries is not deteriorated. Why? Because we had a certain president of Ghana, in fact, who is still the certain president, President Akufo-Addo, on the basis of an advice from who we don't know, supported and seconded an undiplomatic move for a military intervention in Niger when the Niger crisis started. In fact, this was the last stroke that broke the camel's back. Rather than having a defense pact to protect Niger, our president supported another clueless president when it comes to diplomatic accords in the nature of President Tinubu, who thought that military intervention, in fact an attack, was the only way. So that lack of, or shall I call it, that silly application of common sense, okay, at that instant further endangered the relations. So if you have John Mahama coming as president, that fractured credibility Ghana have made for herself through the conduct of President Akufo-Addo in seconding a military action against these countries, who by the way are the suppliers of majority of the tomato and onion and okra we eat. So you can't talk about the food security situation in Ghana without the practical relevance of these countries. And so to tackle food security, food insecurity, to tackle border security, to tackle cooperation economically, any president on the scale of, on a balance of common sense, will want to strengthen at a personal level, and then use that as basis for a national level collaboration between these countries. So that may not be mainstream regionalism or regional integration, but that gives an opportunity for what we call regionalization, where on specific policy levels, the government of President John Mahama and the government of these countries, or the broader leadership of the alliance, will make a lot of sense. And so it is good for us. For me, it is that singular step required for rehabilitation, but it is only a starting point. A starting point, because do remember, and I stand to be corrected, but I think that President Akufo-Addo was also loud in a hypocritical move, okay, to the United States, together with his foreign minister, where they went and accused Burkina Faso as being a security threat to Ghana. Because why? One of the implications of the segregation of these countries from ECOWAS, forming the Alliance for Sahelian States, okay, culminated into a geopolitical reconfiguration where Russia and China, key members of BRICS, have in a way subtly adopted these countries. So then it has broader implications going forward if that deterioration, that crack, is not checked. And so that move by President-elect Mr. John Dramani Mahama is strategic. It is to be, praised. It is to be encouraged, but it shouldn't end there. It should escalate into critical bilateral policy arrangements, okay, in a broader regionalization scheme between Ghana and these countries, and an encouragement of other West African countries to actually follow suit. I think that their separation is not a ringing bell of enmity between them. No, it is not an acrimonious move. In diplomacy, you friend and unfriend. So long as unfriending people or nations or states will afford the opportunity for the lack of aggression, it is always fine to do so. And so the actions of these countries should not be seen as negative, but we should be able to tap into the potentials that exist. So what are some of the potentials? And I'll conclude in a minute on those bases. One, the potentials that exist, which could be a basis or a pivotal point for us to still maintain solidarity, is to take advantage of the kind of relations between the Alliance for Sahelian States. These three countries have a very good relations with the Arab Maghreb region, ranging all the way into Algeria and Tunisia, not only Libya. So then, if Ghana, through the moves of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, build a good bilateral relations, then it enhances Ghana's trade potential also with the Arab Maghreb Union. Then, because the Arab Maghreb Union have got a governance, or shall I call it an economic framework, that allows for a peaceful redress of security threats. You know, the death of Muhammad al-Gaddafi led into the proliferation of a lot of, you know, firearms, and so there is fragility of security along the borders there. But depending on the negotiation you have with the Arab Maghreb region, they seem to have some control over the bandits there. Then Ghana will be able to stretch into, you know, having a common economic agreement with these countries. And for me, that can help us, especially in the area of agricultural advancement, and will create a lot of jobs for our youth. These are the things we should have done to ensure that one district, one factory works. But because very intelligent people were given the opportunity to work, and the daft ones like me were not, we ended where we ended with the percentage we had. It's so appalling. But I think that kudos to the president-elect. I watched with amazement his travels, even to William Ruto and co. I think it's a good step. But whilst doing so, my advice to him is that he should also understudy as a case the weaknesses of the various systems he's visiting. And for once, let us see a new governance landscape in Ghana. The mistakes of people like William Ruto are legendary, and we don't expect His Excellency John Dramani Mahama to, after this visit, replicate same. Right. He is lucky to have a second chance. For me, it's the only opportunity to redeem not only himself, but also the plight of the nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elvis Bota. I'll read a few messages. We have a number of them already. Abdul Wadudu Baba says, good morning, monitoring live from Tamale. Thank you so much, and good morning to the people of Tamale. Starboy GH says, good morning Starboy, many thanks for tuning in. Omar Melin says, good morning my people in Africa, I'm watching from Jamaica. One love to you my brother. One love, Omar. Gafaru says, good morning, monitoring live from Janton. Thank you so much. Said John Paul says, bless. Good morning, I'm watching live from Damongo in the Savannah region today. I want to wish Ghanaians a very fruitful year ahead, for I believe with all calmness that the president-elect will work up to expectations of the Ghanaian people. Happy New Year to you all at Pan-African Television and all NDC folks across. Said John Paul, former SRC president, Tamale Technical University. Thank you for your message. Abdul Kadiri Katariga says, good morning, I'm doing the monitoring live from Tamale. Alhamdulillah, God has saved Mother Ghana. Ibrahim Abdul Fatah says, good morning, watching live from Tamale. Thank you. And Vincent Asante Fafan says, Pan-African TV, I'm watching you live from. Away from that, we are also looking at the future of the country, the future of Ghana. That's going to be a next topic for conversation. Dr. Elvis, is there any glimmer of hope for the country, especially this year in 2025?
There is always the propensity for this nation to be not only the beacon of democracy, but the shining example, okay, of real prosperity. Quite frankly, I do not see why Ghana as a nation should fail. Just as Africa as a continent shouldn't fail, Ghana should not fail. We've been endowed with all the necessary resources, labor, by dint of the kind of population and abilities we have to be able to thrive against controversy and to shine. As a matter of fact, I am not just dwelling on jargons. We have done that before, especially in the First Republic under President Kwame Nkrumah, well, as both President and Prime Minister. We've done great things, such that we rose to a level where we became a prototype of eminence in governance, in trade, and of course, even in prosperity and development. So you had countries like Malaysia, we had Singapore, and the likes, so described as third world nations alongside Ghana, leveraging on the development plans and the trajectory of governance in Ghana to become what they are today, and the majority of them are now actually very high income earning countries. And when you want to talk about the most developed emerging economics, you cannot do so without mentioning Singapore and Malaysia. So we've done that before. So the fundamental question is, where have we gone wrong? We went wrong with leadership. The inability to hold leaders accountable for their stewardship, the corruptible nature of successive governments are the bane of our democratic experiment. The uncivilized nature sometimes of the electorates in seeking for immediate gains to the betrayal of long-term aspirations cannot also be ignored. The outright betrayal of the fundamental principles of solidarity, accountability, and oneness that saw the fisher folks, the farmers, and the ordinary men on our streets fighting for the Ghana we enjoy today, the peace, relative peace we enjoy today, and all of that has happened before. So if these are the basis, corruption, bad leadership, deceptive leadership, too much talk without much to say or much to do, are the reasons for our failure today, then it tells you that we know what the problem is. The diagnoses have been done. There can be a brighter future for Ghana, and there must be a brighter future for Ghana. But let me be very honest with you. We've gotten to that stage where, by dint of the results of elections 2020, we are demonstrating that we want to be intolerable to leadership of deception. We want to no longer have the patience to tolerate any bad leadership and bad governance that reduces us to the whimsical and capricious ambitions and agenda of one individual or one family. And so this has nothing to do with partisan politics. It shouldn't even be crafted this way. This topic, you shouldn't be asking us whether there's a future. We're actually demanding that bright future. It's now a demand on His Excellency President John Mahama, and it will continue to be a demand on other presidents who are yet to govern this country. Well, why should we not? Unemployment is increasingly becoming high, very inexorably. Poverty is on the rise. Look, bless, the average Ghanaian, including you and I on this platform, have mental health issues. We have mental health issues because we are broke. You don't know where your next meal is actually coming from. You are unsure how to pay your next rent. Students are graduating on a daily basis. They cannot find jobs. The problems of Ghana today have been the problems of Ghana 10 years back. They've been the problems of Ghana 20 years ago. We are still battling same problems, and we're asking about the future. There must be a future. You see, even though Ghana may not have done a coup like we saw in Niger and Burkina Faso, my brother, for one party to win elections with a nearly 2 million votes gap was a referendum, not an election. This elections 2024 was a referendum on Akufo-Addo, and also an indication, a red light indication to John Dramani Mahama, president-elect, that you better behave. I predict and I foresee, from a very intellectual and scientific viewpoint, the possibility of one-term government now in Ghana. So the eight indeed has been broken. We will now have a situation where Ghanaians will get to that stage where now we vote you in, 4 years time, you don't live up to your promises, things are not better, we vote you out and bring the next government. That is what is going to be happening in this country now. And so there is no bargain. Now, if there mustn't be a bargain, we're talking about future for Ghana, what must we do? Number one, it starts with the new government. In fact, this new government is just in trouble. The kind of situations they've inherited, the kind of expectations that accompanies their victory is also a form of danger to them. if they are not sure and they are not careful about the kind of policies they promulgate and implement, they will have a defeat that is inverse to the kind of victory they just had in this election. And so President Mahama, number one, must keep faith with the people of Ghana by actually walking the talks he made during the campaign. We will no longer tolerate any too much talk, and when you come to power, you do something else, as we witnessed in the outgoing administration. That is why my party lost. And so his promise to keep a good percentage of women to balance the gender scale must happen. And that ties into the Women Development Bank, that it has to happen. What must happen is that the promise to do something, I don't know what he's going to do, but something drastic and dramatic must happen about our unemployment. We need to see it. For all of these to happen, what he once did with the Senchi Economic Forum, a similar thing is required. So I'm proposing that even ahead of forming his government, he should consider a national dialogue, a national economic dialogue, which will be very non-partisan, okay, and mustn't be controlled only by his cabinet, but should be a very participative one that allows all of us citizens to have the opportunity to talk or to present, policy briefs or documents, all right, to suggest the path of recovery, the path of stabilization of our economy and of our security and of our governance. It is a call I am making passionately to President-elect John Dramani Mahama, a national economic and transformation dialogue. Number two, the suggestions that must come in from there, flowing from this kind of engagement, must culminate into what again he once did, a national development plan, which was rejected by my party and government. We need to revisit the issue of a national development plan and this time our national development plan shouldn't just end as a policy, just an ordinary policy framework that is advisory in nature, but I think that let's get more technocratic in our governance. That kind of development plan we should have should be accompanied by legislative and constitutional reforms. That gives it a legal character. It makes it compelling for other presidents, irrespective of the political party on whose ticket you have won, to pursue a new Ghana agenda, to pursue a new Ghanaian dream, a new Ghanaian hope on the basis of that kind of development architecture with blueprints that must be pursued aggressively. So all other manifestos must be based on that kind of transformative national development plan, so that at least we can make good use and we can make it worth it. There's huge salaries people at the National Development Planning Commission are receiving for no work done in most of the instances, especially in the past 8 years in the NPP's administration. That has to be cured. Now, the president-elect and his new government must pursue oral as promised, but only within the confines of the law. I will support it. I am supporting it as a matter of fact, but it should not be a vehicle that drives us into vengeance, the cycle of vengeance and vindictiveness. Sometimes I get worried about the kind of, conversations that comes on the heels of that. I pray that we don't misconstrue that good agenda of saving retrieving the loot for national development into witch hunting. I don't have a problem with witch hunting. If there are witches, let's hunt them. Are you getting it? But if there are no witches and you embark on witch hunting, clearly you won't find any. It's like looking for hunting rabbits here. You are permitted, but I think you have less than 0.01% chances of having a rabbit here. So let's witch hunt. If there are witches, we'll surely catch them. If we don't have witches, then we'll be free. Now, in all of these, one critical thing successive governments have failed to do, but have done too much politics with, is youth involvement. Youth development is missing. YEA, that's the Youth Employment Agency, should be changed from just an employment agency into a youth development authority. Are you getting my suggestion? Youth Development Authority, YDA. We need a youth development authority with resources and budgetary. Like it shouldn't be tied to all these ministries that have these authorities being at their beg and call for money. And sometimes the best way the minister will sabotage the CEO from becoming popular with good ideas is to make sure you are starved of budget. Let's make it a youth development authority and bring in sports and all those other agencies under that umbrella, empower them and make them move with artisanal training. Look at this mining issue. We can use youth development, deal with artisanal skill equipment, and actually make the most of our extractive sector. This is how we can create a new future. We can create a new future when we actually proceed to ensure that in all of these things we create the kind of market. So we direct our human capital and all these skills and the zealous nature of the youth to work, okay, into certain specific industry and product lines that create a market. Until you have a market that will attract international investment, you will only be surviving on tokens and deception and then exploitations by people from other countries who do not have your economic aspirations at heart. This is what we need to do. And above all, I will still give it a thumbs up to any government that agrees with me on us passing an immediate death sentence on corrupt officials. Let's hang people. Let's scrap independence celebration on 6th of March. The best way to celebrate and honor our fallen heroes is to hang the unscrupulous element who are always stealing. Let me tell you, we have lost this election. But as I have said and pointed to places before, people are going home with millions of dollars that will never finish now. And they'll use it in the next election to create problems in this country. Are you getting it? So, for how long can we keep having that? These monies cannot go to banks. So, bless. This, watch and see how suddenly new real estate agencies will erupt in this country. I'm giving a hint. The stolen dollars are now being strategically diverted into real estates. People will start erecting all manner of houses to rent out. It is to launder those monies, to wash those monies, because they can't take it to the mainstream banks until they begin to do things like that. So expect a boost in real estate, and that will increase the menace of land guards and further endanger the national security of this country. So there are a lot of things we should do, and that include hanging unscrupulous, corrupt public officials. At least if we can't publicly hang them, let us take them to the court and make sure they are jailed one way or the other. Justice is justice. It doesn't matter how it arrives, right? Then we summarize them at the prisons. There should be a special prison where corrupt people, when sentenced to that prison, should definitely fall sick and die within 2 years. Until we kill people who plunder the state, we cannot survive. You think America is America for nothing? Forget the fact that we don't see it in the media. Things are happening. China, things are happening. Tell me the success story of one developed nation, and I'll tell you that killing in the interest of the state is a major, statecraft of these nations. Why are we being holier than thou? Industries are erupting in other regions. Churches are erupting in our part of the world. That is the problem. And the contemporary church has become a prosperity, flourishing, pleasant gospel which is distinct from what Jesus actually preached. Let's forget about all of these things. If we must kill people who deserve to be killed, we kill them. Until then, everybody will be motivated by wealth, unquestioned wealth, to go into politics. The easiest way, and I'm completing with these two statements, that let us always remember that the easiest way to make wealth, ill-gotten wealth, without struggle at all in Africa is politics, African politics. But the second thing which I'm actually concluding on, is the fact that, listen, a nation whose politics is profitable and beneficial than its industry is a nation that is destined for doom. On the basis of that, we must necessarily work on our industrial fortunes, leveraging on that, capacity to ensure that we move away from a tax-driven system. Whether we like it or not, we must move away. Yes, if Mahama scraps these taxes, he's going to suffer, but he has to scrap them. Someone must give us that bitter pill for sustainable development going forward. Good luck. We will be critical on the new government from 7th January, just as we've been critical on this government. All right, we will be very critical. And I believe my NDC friends who keep showering all the good praises, they will still like me if nonsense is happening in the new administration and I decide to talk about it. Right. But if there is the good, I will actually praise it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elvis Bota. There are so many messages that I've been receiving from our cherished viewers. However, this morning there's a sad story. There's a breaking story. The Cantonmantle market is in flames. I've seen the and the last election. Elvis Bota.
When you have state institutions that choose state institutions rather than being officials in public affairs, decide to become irresponsible, they create bigger problems for themselves and for all others. You see the two names you mentioned, those two institutions, they are part of the problem. I'm telling you, the EC in particular, the EC is part of whatever that is happening today. They should suffer it. It shouldn't be to the detriment of the rest of us. You see, if by now, assuming in elections 2020, how many people died in Techiman South? If those were corrupt EC officers killed, right? And in 2024, a few other corrupt EC officials killed, in every election, EC officials will behave right. These problems we are having are partly a creation of the EC. We were talking, anything we suggest, they won't listen. Whatever we push them to do, they won't do. The Electoral Commission became an incubation of knowledge and wisdom than what the rest of us carried. Today, their own elections, they cannot tabulate results, collate and declare. What's this nonsense about people declaring results as very experienced returning officers in various constituencies, declaring results and coming back to say they were coerced? In some cases, they said they were what? What's the term, the legal term they use? They said they declared under duress. And the headquarters, Jean Mensa and her people, are also saying, oh, our guys did so under due. It's not your guys, it was you. The simple legal maxim and the agency says, que faci per lion faci per si. He who performs or acts through another actually acts for himself. So, whatever actions and inactions of these returning officers, whatever it has been on the ground, is the doing of the authority of Jean Mensa. So this is it. When you have state institutions who pursue fire on double cylinders in the arbitrary, application of principles of state and state authority. The courts, I may not be fit to place a judgment on them, but at least I'm entitled to my opinion. We have lost faith in the Ghanaian judicial system. On a daily basis, the integrity of the judiciary is not only dragged into disrepute, but its reputation is highly disintegrated now and is eroding faster in all angles, not only on electoral matters. By their own precedents, okay, they keep contradicting themselves. So our courts are continuously becoming courts of convenience. And a public institution that shifts goalposts and changes its condition on the basis of the convenience of the case before them or the parties before them is an enemy to the state and should be dealt with. The Chief Justice should bow down her head in shame. Look at the drama immediately preceding the elections in this Afenyo Markins case. And look at the quick U-turn of the same Supreme Court on some of the pronouncements they themselves made. Immediately, His Excellency Mahama won the elections. What has changed? So, see the hypocrisy. When we talk of corruption, it is not only economic corruption, we must also tackle the issue of moral bankruptcy and moral corruption and hang people from these kind of institutions as a way of sanitizing them. Are you getting it? Then we create a cemetery of shame for people in public affairs and public service who have betrayed the trust and confidence of the nation. When they die, we, by a special order, okay, or instrument of law, take their bodies from their families. We will not mourn them. Nobody will cry them. Then we'll get the lowest of the sanitary inspectors, those we used to call tangas. My people call them they should put them in some wheelbarrow and go and bury them at the cemetery of shame. Not a new wheelbarrow, a very old wheelbarrow. What is all of this? You see, democracy thrives on institutions. It was why Barack Obama in his 2008 visit made a philosophical statement which we keep looking at on the face value. He said Ghana does not need strong leaders. We need what? Strong institutions. He was talking about integrity. It was a diplomatic way of telling African leaders that you lack integrity and so are your institutions. Please, they should declare these results. Look, true victory is not contentious. If you have lost, you've lost. Look, the sitting MPs of the NPP who lost some of those seats should just eat the humble pie and save themselves a scintilla of integrity left in them, like we saw in Dome Kwabenya. The guy who, after going around washing pants and whatnot, you see, he has conceded defeat. And it's made the case so simple. Why are we waiting for people to die first? If anybody must die, it should be one of the candidates or one of the EC officials, so that going forward, we will credibly handle issues. What is it? Even though the president-elect says he's had so much MPs, and he doesn't know what to do with them, I still think that, well, he is not to decide how many MPs he must have. Those MPs are a representation of Ghanaians, though that was a sarcastic, jovial statement he made. But I think that if Ghanaians so decide that we want all our representatives to be the NDC MPs for this parliament and for this tenure, so be it. So today is second, right? We've got just 4 days in between to the eve of, the handing over. The EC and the court or whatever, we don't care what they are doing. Those seats must be declared in a manner that doesn't bring chaos in parliament. Remember this ending parliament, what happened? And we had that international monumental humiliation, okay? And we were dehydrated of our international, bragging capital. We don't need to see our important legislators chewing ballot papers. We don't want to see them holding each other's. We don't want to see husbands seeing their wives running under, swivel chairs. And we don't just want wives to see their husbands throwing blows at each other's. Parliament is a very noble institution, and we don't want any chaos to happen there. There is this dream of people who will not come to manifest. They think that if there's trouble in Parliament, okay, the delay in the swearing in of MPs, the delay also comes to the swearing in of the president. It's not true. If you take away these seats in contention, Parliament will still make a quorum. And that quorum will be legitimate enough to swear in the new president. So that thinking is warped. If I may speak the language of my uncle, Dr. Mahmoud, it's warped logic. Are you getting it? It's warped logic. And so we don't want that silly application of warped logic. Now, I think that this Kantamanto issue you have raised is an important thing to talk about than these useless entities. Look, they must investigate this issue well. We keep talking about these things, fire quadrants, everything is wrong with our public places. They are not disability friendly. They are not human friendly. They are not livelihood friendly. Anytime there's cholera outbreak, go and check Kantamanto and surrounding places that are market centered or market activity driven centered places like Choko in those places. That's where it starts from. It's a major public health and public security issue. I think that lives are trapped there, and my love to all of them. Let us continue to only say that in building this democratic game and to consolidating it, we need an elaborate re-examination and redesign of our governance landscape, and that includes critical, integrated natural resource governance. I have a free consultant sitting in Bolga whom I would dash for some of those things, expert in international, issues when it comes to the laws relating natural resources. So we have beautiful brains who will contribute to this government and will be critical in terms of policy. At the right time, we will announce the appropriate institution or institutional framework from where our voices will be made compelling in this nation. And the government must hear. We are not begging for them to hear. It's our civic right to have our voices heard. We will not be quiet. Thank you. I salute you and I salute our viewers this morning.
Thank you very much, Dr. Elvis Bota. Comrade Pratt, finally.
Well, I mean, it's so obvious you don't even have to speak about it. What happened on December 7th? You got people in their various communities to go to polling stations, of a few thousand people queue up and put papers in selected ballot boxes. That's from 7 a.m. 5 p.m., these papers were brought out and counted in the full glare of the public. They're supposed to be entered on pink sheets and announced. And then eventually for presidential elections, for parliamentary elections, they went to constituency coalition centers. You look at the numbers of the pink sheets, you tally them, and you add them, and then you announce the winner. For presidential elections, they ended up at regional coalition centers. They were sent to the national headquarters. Just addition, you get the number. My goodness! For 1 month, the Electoral Commission cannot do this. 1 month. Today is 2nd of January. We had the elections on 7th of December. They cannot do this.
Addition. 26 days. Exactly 26. My twins in primary 4 could have done this mathematics.
I mean, unbelievable. What other statement do you want about incompetence? Almost 1 month, they can't do this simple thing. I mean, this is an exercise you can bring primary school children to come and do. So I am so very disappointed, so very disappointed. Now, the courts, I don't know what to say about our courts. Now, precedent means absolutely nothing in our courts. The court today can decide that this paper is white. By evening, the same court can decide that the paper is green. There's no consistency. What happened to these courts? Master, I have nothing more to say.
All right, I'll read a few messages to wrap up. Good morning, Bless, and to your distinguished panel members. The NPP and their wicked plans and the agenda are at it again so soon, even when GM is here to be sworn in. The fire ascents have begun rather so soon. The market burning has started, and very soon they will move to sensitive ministries. So the NDC must put its security measures on high alert and put an eagle eye on these saboteurs. Chief Adam from Tamale, thank you, Chief, for your message. Good morning to you all, and to the panelists. Let's all preach togetherness to build the Ghana we want. Please, all hands must be on deck to achieve a common goal for the benefit of all Ghanaians, irrespective of political and ethnic background. Amos from Asim Fusu. Thank you, Amos, for your message. The Electoral Commission's apparent attempt to actually subvert and circumvent the sovereign democratic will of good people of Ghana will be revolted with the last blood in us. It's quite unfortunate and surprising that our democratic state institutions are not living up to the billing and are ostensibly and seemingly doing the whims and caprices of the appointing authority. Written by Ernest Kwashif from Dansuman. Thank you, Ernest, for your message. The 24-hour economy will start in Parliament by the NDC MPs. Okay, thank you. Thumbs up, Dr. Elvis. I support the Cemetery of Shame and the very old wheelbarrow. Kokomsa will be proud of you. Joshua from Santa Maria. Thank you, Josh, for your message. Good morning, bless. Uncle Pratt should be appointed as a presidential advisor by JDM. Elvis is a hope to the youth of Ghana. Adam from Damongo sends this one. Thank you, Adam, for your message. Good morning, blessed. Democracy is the transformation of a society's natural and human resources to serve the needs and interests of the people through proper training and capacity building, leading to all-inclusive nation building. Our forefathers' kingdoms practiced better democracy by sharing power among paramount and sub-chiefs and entourage themselves with very intelligent council of elders. I'm Kelvin Malcolm Sewonu from Adenta. Thank you, Kelvin, for your message. This one here also says, bless. The good news is that 2024 is going to be Operation Mansha and Bantama. NDC will pick these two seats in Ashanti. Zeus from Tamale. Thank you, Zeus, for your message. Good morning, Uncle Kwesi Pratt. The 24-hour economy will start from next week from our courts. NPP has thousands of criminals. From next week, the courts will start the 24-hour economy by prosecuting the NPP kleptomaniacs. This will bring in a lot of money. Kweku from La Paz. Thank you, Kweku, for your message. Bless. Hope you are good. You have not responded to any of my messages. Kindly give my number to Senior Pratt. I really need to chat about great things with him. Okay. Thank you very much for your message. I'll see how possible that would be. H. John Paul says, good morning. I'm watching live from Damongo in the Savannah region. I want to wish Ghanaians a fruitful year ahead. I think I've already done this message. Bless, I'm very impressed by your panelists. I greet my northern brother for being very principled. Morrison from Tamale. Thank you, Morrison, for a message. Good morning, bless. Ghana's future lies in the hands of good leadership. Without good leaders, no future for Ghana. Nuruddin, inside Tamale. Thank you, Nuruddin. Salifu Kamal also says, because of the lack of competency of the EC, we have to blame government. NDC is going to make it better. Kamal from Golu. Thank you, Kamal. Good morning, sir. I'm Odro Entry Samuel, watching you live from New Edubiase, Adansi South District, Ashanti. I'm very much interested in your discussion, and I appreciate it so much. You are welcome to continue doing the good work. Okay, thank you, and I wish you a happy new year. Thank you very much, Intri Sambol, and a happy new year to you as well. Good morning, bless. The doc is right. The AC is the cause of this confusion because they are trying to please the NPP. How can a major party tell us that they don't have their pink sheets? Then in the blink of an eye, the AC and NPP produces similar pink sheets through dubious means. Jen Mensah and her appointees had an agenda to steal the elections in conjunction with the NPP and the security services. It didn't work. They are shamelessly continuing to hold us to ransom. Let me see if I can do a few more. Good morning, bless. Enjoying this morning's conversation. It's really a true talk by Dr. Bota, Albert Kuntana from Nadoli Kaliu. Thank you, Kuntana, for your.
Gotten to the king.
I see. Good morning, bless. Certainly, Mahama must deliver. However, he needs our massive support. We also need to protect him from the political plots and shenanigans from Akufo-Addo's people, such as this magical 7% growth, Ghana's debt mysteriously coming down to 500 billion. Furthermore, Ghanaians should learn to reward honesty and good governance. So, as we give Mahama a litmus paper, if he feels we should hang him, but if he passes or excels, let us make potential leaders to know that we can understand what is good governance. So, when a government serves well, let us keep the government longer in power. If we change government for change's sake or based on ethnicity, this will make wicked people to come take over the reins of government. And what Akufo-Addo did. Ghana man, thank you, Ghana man, for your message. Good morning. I'm doing the watching from Ada, Ghana. We are expecting Mahama to deliver to the satisfaction of the people of Ghana. all right, but not his party people only. All right, thank you very much for your message. Good morning, bless. Uncle Pratt and Dr. Elvis should be used as special advisors to the president-elect, from Ahmed Numa Kintampo. Well, hello, please. There's one more that must be done for elections. All suspected thumbprinted ballot sheets captured should be sent for forensic audit for the owners of the thumbprints to be prosecuted, so we stop ballots from giving us issues in our elections. Aaron from the west, upper west. Okay, thank you, Aaron, for your message. Two more messages, then I call it a day. Good morning, bless. Greetings to your panelists. Bless, since we had the elephants become, since when has the elephant become the national symbol of Ghana? The national award had a symbol of an elephant instead of the coat of arms. Those were NPP awards, not national. Nanado indeed has no shame. Bandex from Tamale. And to what will be my final message. Bless, long before the December 7 elections, there were concerns about the EC, and I personally said the EC was in bed with the NPP. Clearly, it is playing out now. Stephen Peng from WA. Thank you, Mr. Stephen Peng, one of our dedicated viewers. Thank you so much for always having our time. Our time is up. We need to go. I want to thank Dr. Elvis.
Big ups to all viewers. We are very, very grateful for your time on the channel and wishes you well in whatever you do. Stay blessed and stay tuned for more as well.
PENDREAM TV now, so far so good. Say open online portal e Ghana. Nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV.